Welcome to HR Voices, a podcast for independent HR and people professionals and the businesses they support. HR Voices is brought to you by the expert team at HR Independence Limited. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of HR Voices podcast. I am your host, Mary Asante. So this is the second part of our award-winning series where we are talking to the award winners of the HRI Awards 2025. And with me today, I have got Adam Pickford from Highlight People. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Mary. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So Adam and Debbie won the high growth category. Again, another fantastic and a great category because we look at consultancies that have achieved growth over the past 2 to 3 years. And I think in your case, you've built an amazing business and you've achieved some fantastic growth over the 12-month periods leading to the award, which is incredible and amazing. And so very well deserving of the award. So congratulations once again.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Great. So today, I think what we are going to be doing is talking to you about what that journey has been like for you, and also to help anyone listening to us who may be running their consultancy thinking, right, so how do I achieve growth? And also hopefully inspiring people to enter that category next year when the award, or what am I saying next year? This year, 2026, when the award is launched. Okay.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, if you tell our listeners or our audience a bit about yourself and Highlight People, that would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much indeed, Mary. So we set Highlight People up back towards the end of 2019. And when I say we, it's myself and my business partner, Debbie Molyneux, who is also my wife, as well as my business partner. She uses her maiden name professionally, but just to be transparent about this, Debbie's background is in core HR and my background is in people development. And we'd both worked for big companies and we'd worked for large SMEs as well. And over the course of our careers, we'd always wanted to set something up. Back end of 2019, we took the plunge and did it. A few months later, of course, COVID hit. So that was quite an interesting time and made it quite hard to begin with, at least to obviously get out there and network was just impossible. So we were doing some virtual networking to begin with. However, of course, it was also quite a busy time, particularly in a core HR side, as everybody was scrambling quickly and looking at what they needed to do to pivot their businesses. And then the people development piece really followed on from that, as people recognized that was the new normal and they needed help and support with communicating virtually, with leading in a virtual environment and so on and so forth. For lots of businesses, of course, that was a very new way of working. So that was the start of our journey. So it was quite an interesting time. Yeah. Really, over the next couple of years, we were then able to grow and start to acquire some more businesses in our portfolio, in our retained offering. And we have a mix of retained clients and then project-based clients. Quite a bit of the work I do on the people development side is project-based, might be a leadership development program or a line management development program or a talent management program or initiative. So we have this nice blend and balance, and effectively what we've been able to do is steadily grow that. And then about 3 years ago, we took on our first employee. And then about 8 months ago, we took on our second employee. And then we also work with some associates. So we have quite a hybrid model where we can tap into some additional resource and capacity when we need it. And I suppose the kind of key theme of our kind of 6+ we're into our 6th year now of doing this, has been around what can we do to recognize and entertain business growth behavior, right? So what do Debbie and I need to do to be able to grow the business, and how do we step back a little bit and do some of the more strategic pieces that enable us to maintain that growth and have other people doing more of the doing. So that's probably our journey in a snapshot.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Adam, for that detailed journey. And I think very exciting. It's always interesting when partners are working together in a business, and because you're then effectively doing a proper 24/7, isn't it? So in that scenario, boundaries are quite important, because otherwise you'll probably end up talking about work all the time, isn't it? And not necessarily having time off work, either on a regular or probably even on vacation.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. I mean, all sorts of interesting dynamics. We've definitely found a way of making it work, and we've had to learn aspects of that. So you're right. We've put in place some kind of boundaries around when we do and don't talk about work as life partners as well as business partners. I think that's just incredibly important. And we're pretty good at upholding that. I wouldn't say we get it right all of the time.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always the urgent thing that comes up, right? But that's sort of nothing to do with being life partners. That's running a business. But generally, I think we get that about right. We also benefit from the fact that we're subject matter experts in different things. Debbie is most definitely a generalist HR person, and I'm a people development person, right? So I wouldn't dream to offer any advice or input around employment law. I would come unstuck very, very quickly. And she and others we've now got working for us absolutely play in that space, whereas I play, as I say, much more in the people development arena. So I think that helps as well, right?
Absolutely.
And probably the other biggest thing that's made a difference is being really open and honest and candid, firstly with ourselves and secondly with each other, about what we're good at, and perhaps more importantly what we're not good at, and taking a decision pretty early on in our business that we would do the things that we're good at and divide those between us, and now including the rest of our team, and for anything else we would seek expertise elsewhere. I mean, accountancy is the obvious example of that, which I'm guessing is true for probably the vast majority of us as HR/people development consultants. We're not experts at that, so let's find someone else to do that. It would be another example, marketing and so on and so forth. So that perhaps gives you a bit of a flavour of working with a partner. And what's really interesting actually is how many other businesses we've come across, both as clients or just through networking, but also in the HR arena. We've come across a few other life partners who are working together in business as well, and it's great and always good to sort of compare and contrast notes with them too.
Absolutely. And I think you are right. There are loads of things you've touched on there, which is the key. One of the key things is understanding what your strengths are and playing to each other's strengths in business. And I think when you form a business partnership, that is really important, irrespective of whether you're lifelong partners as well or just business partners. Is quite an important dynamics to get right, and also knowing what sort of clear roles and responsibilities. I mean, regardless of what you do, there will be overlaps, but knowing what each of your responsibilities are is quite important. And also, more importantly, you also talked about knowing when to call for help, right? Because the fact that it's two of you doing it doesn't mean you necessarily have to do everything yourselves. You talked about calling on accountants, marketing experts, and other people when necessary to do stuff bits for you that you know is not your expertise, or two, you may not have the time to do well, because when you are focusing on what you do best, then it's easier and actually a lot more efficient for your business to get to outsource things, IT, accounting, and marketing, and the likes of it, to people who know what they are doing and they can help you grow faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's that dilemma, isn't there, that we certainly went through, and I'm guessing others will relate to this as well, around, well, when do you start spending money on getting other people to do things, right? That
Yeah.
tendency to go, oh, I don't really want to spend the money. I'd rather do it myself,
Mm.
because I'm a bit worried about spending that money and so on and so forth. And certainly we went through that step and stage fairly early on as well.
Mm.
And I suppose our conclusion was, yeah, but it's going to take us 2 or 3 times as long as it will take them.
Yeah.
And we probably won't do it as well. We certainly won't do it as well. And we probably won't enjoy it,
Mm.
because if it was our strength, we'd do it. And
Yeah.
because it isn't our strength, we don't want to do it, right? So you weigh all of those things up, and thinking then back to, well, what's your worth, what's your value? Like, if you can equate that to a sort of an hourly amount, right? How much time are you then sort of spending on doing something that you could otherwise be earning or doing something else with? So factoring all of that in, we took baby steps to begin with. We didn't do all of those things in one go, but we made a conscious choice to head in that direction. And I think that's really underpinned actually our ability to be able to grow, because we spend more time doing the things that we want to do, less time doing the things that we either can't do or can't do very well or don't want to do. And so that leads to, I don't know, a greater sense of fulfillment for us, as well as a better outcome by getting others to do it. So I suppose the message here is, offload what you can, and start small and grow from there if you're early in your journey.
Excellent. So for listeners here who want to know more about the scaling mechanism, the growth, sort of the mechanics, what broke first when your business started growing quickly? Because a lot of the time when we are working as HR consultants with our clients scaling, when we're working within organizations, etc., you find that when you start to grow, you get to the bit where things starts to creak, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes things break and you have to fix it in order for that growth to happen, or the process of fixing it might be part of the growth process.
Yeah. No, I get it completely. I suppose two things spring to mind. One is capacity, and the other is what I call kind of operations, right? So we probably true for most people doing the sort of things that we're doing, and fellow HR consultants who might be listening to this. When you start, you're not really focused on process.
Yeah.
So you're just focused on trying to win clients, trying to win work, getting out there and doing it, and rightly so. As you grow, as you get more clients in whatever guise, whether that's retained or it's project based, then there is obviously a need to have some more robust processes in the background, whether that's simple stuff like the smooth process for a contract with the client. We went down the route of having a kind of a fairly simple contract, and then a statement of work for each piece of work for kind of project based work. We just felt that was easier, because then we just needed to do 1-page statement of work each time something else appeared. So it was more efficient. But all other sorts of processes, how do you onboard new clients? How do you review the relationship over time? How do you track the amount of activities that you're doing per client? Obviously, there's lots of different ways to go about doing this, but ultimately, how do you measure the amount of time you're spending on a client versus the amount of money that they're spending with you, right? And have you got a good way of tracking that, and a good formula in the background to ensure that you're profitable, you're not spending consistently more time than they're paying you for? So all of these sorts of things from a process perspective obviously are really, really important. we didn't have any of that when we started, of course, as we were starting more or less from a blank page, like I guess again most of us. And we built some things in fairly quickly, but they were pretty simple. And what we found is, as we've grown, we've needed to inject more process. And in fact, one of the things we deliberately did was, when we took on our most recent member of staff, we were absolutely looking for somebody that had a real good understanding and interest and capacity for HR processes. It back to what I was saying before, Debbie and I can do process, we absolutely can, but it's not our biggest strengths, respectively. Yeah. So to have Ellie now in the team, who really owns and drives a lot of the kind of upgrading of our internal processes, I think has made a huge difference. So there's something there about the mix of skills and strengths within the team. And then the other one I mentioned was capacity. Obviously, to begin with, you sort of say yes, I guess, to most things, right? We have said no on a few occasions where we felt there wasn't a good values mix, for example. But in general terms, I'm guessing most of us are saying yes when we've got the opportunity of work, because we need to win some. And so you sort of go through that sudden shift of going, oh my goodness, I don't have enough work, to I've got plenty of work, to okay, I've now got too much work. And so being able to manage and adjust your resources to support the capacity of work that you've done. So what I was saying before about we have a couple of employees and a couple of associates, so we can dial up and dial down our resource dependent upon workload peaks and troughs. So that's the other big thing that I wouldn't say it broke, but we knew, we got to a point where we were going, right, we're just too busy here, but we need to find some other solutions. So those two things, capacity and operations.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. And you talked about earlier having employees and then associates, so taking the hybrid model. What led you to go down the hybrid route rather than saying, right, we are going to either just purely work with associates or just employ people to work for us?
Yeah, I think for us, really, it was driven by a couple of things. So the nature of the work that we're doing definitely influences that. Again, I'm sure, like lots of people, we like to develop really good relationships and an understanding of our clients' businesses, obviously, particularly on the retained side. For us to be able to do that, we want to have a certainty of a consistent team and an understanding of whom within that team is responsible for what, and having a couple of people on the HR side supporting Debbie makes a huge difference to our ability to be able to provide that consistency and that understanding, but also then work at multiple levels, right? So Debbie's obviously typically involved at a more strategic level, developing that overall kind of people plan with the client, aligning to the overall direction of the business and driving towards the business goals and objectives. Then we've got Ellie and Hannah who are operating at a more sort of tactical level, able to support the clients in what needs to get done in order to deliver on that strategy. So that familiarity has worked really well. We're always keen to want to employ people in spite of some of the challenges in the environment and the UK economy at the moment with doing so. We wanted to have a team. We want to be part of a group of individuals doing things and feeling like we've got a sense of teamwork and collaboration and collective purpose to what we're doing. So it lends itself very well to that as well. And it's lovely, of course, to be able to feel like a team, like a genuine team who meet regularly, get together regularly, and understand each other on a different level. On my side, on the people development side, where it tends to be more project-based, mm-hmm. I do some projects, for example, that support some of our retained clients, but they may have a definitive period of time. And then I do some standalone projects for clients that we don't have as HR retained clients because they've got their own in-house HR. So they just use me for project-based initiatives. So for me, being able to call upon really high caliber people development practitioners is important from a kind of capacity management perspective, but also, frankly, from a kind of business prudence perspective. For me to hire people like that would be really, really expensive, because I need to put really good people in front of clients, and so I couldn't afford them. Is sort of the bottom line there.
Yeah.
But also, I found people for whom that is an arrangement that suits really, really well. So leveraging my network and being able to call on a couple of people in particular that I do, who have got 25 plus years of experience working in people development and who want to work on an associate basis. They don't want to come and be employees anyway.
Yeah.
They have business models where they are associates to me and a few others, and that works really, really well. And we have that sense of collaboration too. So nice balance, and those were the things that sort of drove the decision making behind it.
Excellent. And what was again, you talked about having transition, or the wish to transition from delivery effectively into more business development and sort of being more at the front of the client relationship and management of your client base, and getting people in to do I would say, the delivery aspects and the operational aspects for your business. How do you think the transitioning is going to be for both yourself and Debbie, from delivery into more business development and sales type role?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. And I would say it's a work in progress, right? I don't think either Debbie nor I would want to completely give up doing some of the doing, right? Because that's our respective backgrounds, obviously, and I'm sure others could relate to this. That if all we became was salespeople, that wouldn't tick every box for us, right? Yes, we want to grow our business, but we also want to be very engaged and interactive with our clients as well. The aim and the goal, of course, is to do that mostly on a strategic basis, or a more strategic basis. But it's still nice to get involved. I wouldn't want to completely give up delivering some of the interventions, doing some of the coaching that I do, and so on and so forth. And I know Debs would say the same about the core HR side. So there's a balance to be struck, and I think part of that then is about recognizing and understanding, well, what does that balance need to look like? So how much of our time do we want to be doing this versus doing that, and how much time doing each of those things does our business really require of us? And I don't think those things are completely misaligned. No. So that's pretty good. Debbie has increasingly moved into more of a kind of BD type role, and that sits very comfortably with her skill set. She's very, very good. For those of you who've met her, I know quite a few of you have, she loves to meet people. She loves to understand what's going on and explore with them what potentially we can do to help. So that's definitely a good fit for her. For me, what's quite an interesting area that I'm exploring is not merely thinking about the end client, but also thinking about the broader HR and people development community as being a kind of client to us as well, right? And what I mean by that is, so I work a lot with insights discovery. I'm an insights discovery practitioner, but I'm also an insights discovery partner. And so I have a number of other practitioners who are part of a community that I've set up, where we come together, we collaborate, we support each other, we help develop each other's capabilities in all things insights related, and I find that really purposeful, and I find that really, really valuable to do. And of course, they're then going out and delivering insights to all of their respective clients or their potential clients, and so in that sense, I'm ticking both boxes for me, right? I'm doing a bit of almost BD, but I'm also still delivering, but I'm delivering to other kind of people development practitioners, which is which is lovely. So yeah, so I'm always looking to build that community further. And for anyone out there that does use Insights Discovery and is a practitioner and is looking for a partner to provide resources, units, licenses, and so on and so forth, please do reach out.
Excellent. Great stuff. And one interesting point I want to explore is what nearly derailed your growth?
Well, right at the very start, COVID nearly derailed our growth, I guess. But yeah, I can't say that was growth, because we hadn't got to that point where we achieved anything at that stage. So that nearly stopped us in our tracks before any growth was possible. But we got through that. Beyond that, what's nearly derailed us in our growth? I think probably the biggest thing is that piece about working in the business versus working on the business.
Yeah.
So I think had we not made conscious decisions that we didn't want to spend, I was going to say 100% of our time, wouldn't have been that, but the vast majority of our time just servicing the clients, just between Debbie and me, we could have kept doing that, and we would have maybe grown a bit, but we would have obviously then leveled out, and our capacity to grow beyond that would have been massively inhibited. So I think being consciously aware of that up front, and then taking quite deliberate decisions.
I think that is very important, and an important point. Working as an HR consultant, it's important to make time to work on your business as well as within the business, because if you focus too much on delivering to your clients, then you're going to sort of, I'm really busy with this project or with this client or with this whatever, then that comes to an end and you suddenly go, ooh, what next? You haven't got things in your pipeline. So it's quite important to spend time to build your pipeline so that you know that you've got a strong pipeline, and when you finish delivering one project, there is one hopefully in the background for you. And actually, as you have done, if you get to the point where you get too many things coming in at once, then if you have a strong pipeline of associates, then you can call on them to help you deliver that workload that you have.
Yeah, definitely. Two thoughts come to mind off the back of that, Mary, right? So I can remember quite early on, we had somebody who was almost mentoring us a little bit, and she asked us one day, who's your biggest client? And so we clarified the question. What do you mean? The biggest spend with us? Yeah. Who's your biggest client? So we told her, and she went, no, you're wrong. And we went, no, that's definitely our biggest client. She went, no, that's not your biggest client. Your biggest client is you. You have to consider yourselves as your own client. And so if you do not look after that client, then you will get into problems. And it was a really refreshing way to think about it, to go, oh yeah, you're right. We need to service ourselves. Obviously that servicing looks very different to what we do with other clients, but it's hopefully a useful way for everyone to think about it, is to go, yeah, okay, what do I need to do to make sure I'm looking after my number one client? And the other thing that jumped in my mind, and this is an often quoted phrase, but there was a famous golfer who once said, the more I practice, the luckier I get, right? So our ability to then go out and start seeking to source additional work, to your point, when the project finishes, what comes next, it's amazing. The more you go out and do it, how you get better at it. And yeah, I mean, we're not perfect. We certainly don't get it right every time. We certainly don't win every bit of business, and so on and so forth. But I think we've learned a lot over the years about kind of eating that frog, right? For tackle the thing that you're putting off, make it go and happen. Because if you don't, then yeah, you're right. You get into problems.
Excellent. So what's an opinion you have about HR consultancy that might make some people uncomfortable?
Wow. Well, I suppose my immediate reaction to this tells you that I haven't heard these questions before this podcast took place. My next reaction to that is, well, who's the people we're talking about? Are we talking about our prospective clients? Are we talking about other HR professionals? So I'd maybe start with that. I think it depends who you define as other HR professionals. So it depends who you define as who are the people, right? If I take it as being people that we're seeking to attract as customers and clients, in other words, business leaders, decision makers within organizations, I think the biggest mistake we can make is to position ourselves as something truly operational, right? That whole piece about HR or people, however it's referred to in that business, as having a seat at the top table, and businesses wouldn't dream of not having somebody representing finance at the top table, quite rightly. But they should also do the same with people, right? So positioning ourselves as something more operational than strategic, I think is not helpful, right? So what do we do to help convey that we add strategic value? And maybe that's another part of it, seeking to quantify the value we add. I know that's the holy grail in some regards, but all things HR and people related as an investment rather than a cost. So that's maybe how I would look at it from that angle. If I was thinking the people are HR independents themselves, I think the biggest mistake is to think that we're not a community and that we somehow are better off being secretive from others, right? I know Debbie has met some really, really fantastic consultants through HRI and met up at your events, and also continues to stay in touch with many of them outside of that. And that's been of huge value to her on a number of levels, right? Just being able to speak to kindred spirits, being able to speak with people that recognize and understand some of the challenges, some of the opportunities, some of the specific elements that you need to get into. What's your approach towards your retained service? How are you going to position it? What's the offering? What's the pricing? How do you go about doing some of these things? Just a huge advantage, as is that sort of community and co-collaboration piece that I mentioned before. So yeah, so I think and probably, and it ought to be the case, I guess, that the HR community, almost more than any other business function, should be very collaborative and cooperating with each other to achieve better outcomes for all and raise that overall standard on bar on the quality of HR and people provision that we give to businesses. And I know that that's something that you're really passionate about as well, Mary.
Well, thank you. And thinking about the award moment, I know you were not in the room and Debbie was, but thinking about the award moment, tell us about the moment you found out that you'd won.
Well, I was saying to you before we started recording, so I was gutted I couldn't be there on the day. I was delivering a training session for a client that I had tried to move unsuccessfully. So the moment I found out was a surreptitious look at my phone when Deb's texted me in the afternoon, and yeah, I was buzzing. I was absolutely buzzing, and so pleased. We'd been the year before and watched other award winners, absolutely deserved winners, get their awards, and we were like, yeah, we should aspire for that. I didn't know if we would win it, but we should aspire for at least entering and using that almost as a motivating factor for us to want to move forward. So both the opportunity to apply, I think, has helped us, but then obviously the winning itself was just, I mean, really, really, really nice and quite validating, I have to say. Really, really feel very humbled that you chose us to win the award. And the other really, really nice bit, of course, was sharing it with the rest of the team. And the timing was perfect because it was pretty much the end of our financial year, and we already had a dinner planned. So we might have thrown an extra bottle of bubbles into the mix just to celebrate.
Amazing. That's fantastic. And has it changed anything for your business yet?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. Debbie and I were talking about this the other day. So I think it's a few things. I think firstly, it is validating. So on a very kind of human level of running a business, we all know that running a business is stressful, right? It's not plain sailing. A lot of the time we like to look like the swan, but we're paddling like fury underneath. And it is validating to know that we must be getting some things right. And you obviously know that when you look at various things anyway, but to sort of have that officially recognized is just really nice on a human level. So that was the first thing Debbie and I thought. The second thing was then it's just reinforcing our credibility.
Yeah.
And obviously we were able to go out and do a couple of social media posts. We're not massive extroverts when it comes to doing a load of stuff on social media, but we did obviously want to recognize our achievement, also promote you as an organization as part of that as well. So that was really, really nice. And to be able to say award winning, again, of course, is something that only aids and supports our credibility. So I mean, I think it has made a tangible difference to the nature of some of the conversations we've had. We're going to be upgrading our website later this year, something we've needed to do for years. We threw something up when we first got started, and we always went, we need to come back and update it. So to be able to reference it on that as well will be really, really nice. So yeah, really, really thankful and grateful for it. And I would say to anybody who's thinking, should I enter the award? Like, I would absolutely go for it, whichever award category is your preference. Because it was a really good exercise, actually, just going through the application, because it stops and makes you think. It makes you think about where you're at, the journey you've been on, what your strategy is for moving forwards. So that itself, I think, was really, really a really helpful exercise. But of course, it's then wonderful if you get shortlisted or you get to win. So I would encourage everybody to do it who's thinking about whether they should.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Adam, and thank you for coming on HR Voices podcast. And thank you to everyone listening to us or watching us. If you've really enjoyed listening to us, please share with your network and give us a shout out. And also, if you have any questions for Adam, please do let's get in touch and let us know. And I'm sure we'll be more than happy to respond to that. Thank you and take care. Speak to you all soon. Bye. The next award winner that I'll be speaking to is Sophie Dodson of Bisho HR. And I will let Sophie speak tell us a bit about herself. But Sophie is the winner of our Emerging Talent Award of 2025. So congratulations, Sophie.
Thank you very much. It was quite a surprise, but a very welcome one. So thank you.
Absolutely. I think sometimes for awards, etc., you kind of think, when you're entering, am I going to win? Am I sort of worthy of winning? And when you actually do win or get shortlisted as a nominee, then you really get over the moon, don't you?
Absolutely. And when you see the people who have been nominated and also made the shortlist, you're just thinking these people are amazing at what they're doing. So it really was a pinch me moment, I must admit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to our listeners who are thinking, how did you gain traction so fast?
Sheer dogged determination and stubbornness. It seems fast on the face of it, but actually it's years of kind of preparation and work beforehand. It's building up my network beforehand and putting plans in place, reaching out and speaking to people that I know, getting advice. So even on the surface, it looks like it's been quite quick. Actually, there's been a lot going on in the background, and very much like it might not feel it to me who lives it day to day, but maybe on the outside, very much like a swan in terms of everything's fine. And then underneath, there's lots of paddling going on underneath. But yeah.
Yeah, or a real iceberg scenarios and where there's a lot of things going on underneath the surface, and what everyone
Yes.
sees is this beautiful, oh wow, isn't that amazing? And
Yeah, absolutely.
excellent. I think the emerging talent is really sort of a category for consultancies at their early stages who have experienced rapid growth and made a huge impact. It's no mean feat. Congratulations on, like
Thank
you're
you.
saying, there's some amazing, we do get amazing entries into our award when categories, and this one was no different. We did get some amazing entries, and so yeah, well done on
Thank
winning
you.
that. And so looking at your journey then, what did you say yes to earlier on that helped you build momentum?
Networking.
Mm.
Networking. I threw myself into it. And it was tough going because you're trying to set up your business, you're trying to build confidence in your own ability. But the one thing that was really different for me was I literally just threw myself into as many networking, different groups and events as I could. Because it's not only about building business and business development, it's about the people that you're meeting along the way who might be able to introduce you to other people, or these are the people who have been where you are building businesses. They might not be in HR necessarily, but they understand. And building a business on your own can be quite a lonely place. So it's really nice to have that support network around you, and for everybody to understand that feeling, because unless you've been there and done it, I think it's very difficult to describe. So I think it's very easy to get caught in a trap where all you do is networking, but you do find the ones that are your tribe or your people, but to build that presence in the area that you're working really did make a difference to me. I got the opportunity to speak quite early on in my career at a networking event, and my first client came from that. And then you kind of get a bit of momentum and you're on a bit of a roll. So that was the big differentiator for me, I think, is that initial throwing yourself into networking.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And I think you've touched on a couple of very important points about networking. The first one is identifying your tribes, because there are so many networking opportunities out there. So finding the ones that are right for you is very important. And I think another important point is the fact that networking is not just about networking with either your potential clients or people similar to yourself. That is, if you're an HR person, it's not just about networking or getting in touch with your clients, but also networking with others, and not just with HR people, but with other professionals, other people in industry and stuff as well. Because at the end of the day, people discuss their issues with people they trust, right? And if you network with the right people and they come across people who have issues or challenges that you can help them with, then your name comes to mind when they are discussing that issue.
Yeah. And everything we do is about people, isn't it, in HR? Building that working relationship and trust is probably the biggest testament to you as an HR person. If somebody comes to you and asks you to work with them because of how you came across, or because of a conversation you've had, or something along those lines, you can't get a warmer lead than that in terms of actual business development. And it's good for you as well, because you're not going to be suitable to work with everybody, so it's good for you to have an insight into how that person works as well, right? Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I've been to some networking that I've just gone, oh, never again, but you live, you learn, and time's never wasted as long as you learn something.
Absolutely. And what did you say yes that you absolutely shouldn't have?
Working with a client that I knew wasn't going to be the right client. From day one, they came across very transactional, very, what's the best way of putting it? difficult, I would say. It was very clear from the outset that this was going to be a very difficult client and that their values weren't aligned with my values. And that was the biggest thing for me. It wasn't that they were difficult, because, you know, we're all used to that. But the fact that our values were completely disjointed meant that we just didn't work well together. And that came across, and it became something that I didn't look forward to doing. And whilst we got good results and the rest of it, which was great, I learned a lot from that, because I didn't get into being self-employed and doing HR for other
Things
people
that
to
you don't
work with
enjoy.
people that don't have the same kind of mindset that I do. And you learn sometimes, even though it's hard at the beginning, especially when you're kind of scrabbling around trying to get any business you can, you don't want to say no, but sometimes the better thing to do is to say no. And it went well. I helped find somebody that worked really well with them. But yeah, it was one of those things that I was like, I'm glad that I did it, because I did learn a lot, but I also learned not to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And how did you get your first 5 paying clients?
Literally networking, building those relationships with people, and as well as actually going to the networking events, getting up and speaking at them. So if they had any speaker opportunities or anything like that, I would be in touch with the people running the events, and I'd be like, do you want me to get up and give a quick overview of what's coming up in April, or something along those lines? And that, honestly, that is the best way to get new clients, because not all of them have come directly from that networking event, but it's been referrals from people who I have met at networking that have come from those. So yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Excellent, great. So I think the key point there is network, and network.
Yes, but have a strategy behind it. Don't
Mm.
just network for the sake of it. Have a plan. And there's lots of things online as well about networking and how to network and things. So look at different resources out there. But the biggest one for me is have a plan. What are you going to that network for? What's your aim for that event? Is it to come back with new contacts? Is it to let people know about Be Sure HR and that it's there and it's an actual thing? Is it to just give people some information that's needed? It doesn't always have to be about getting business, but always have a plan and an aim of what you're wanting to get out of it, I think.
Okay, all right. And talking about the aims and the plan for when you're networking. So when you go into the room, one of the things that I know is that knowing who's in the room, being able to read the room, etc. So if you
Yeah.
have a plan and it doesn't quite work out because there's not the right people in the room for that plan,
Yeah.
how do you go about that specific network?
I would love to tell you that there is a specific thing that you should do, but to be quite honest, Mary, you just wing it. Sometimes you just have to fall back on your experience and just chat to people. Things don't always go to plan, but you talk about anything but business and people open up. So you can always fall back on that.
You know what? I'm laughing when you said just wing it. And it's funny, we are talking about emerging talents and early stages of consultancy and things like that. And I do remember when my early stages, network, and it was crucial. And I totally agree with you. When you go in and you're talking to people and you go, oh, how are you getting on? And everyone, oh, good, I'm doing really well. And everybody's doing really, really well and really, really well. And
Yeah.
on your way back, you kind of go, huh, what am I doing wrong then? That everyone is doing
Oh,
well,
absolutely.
but I'm not.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I learned quite early on, is that not everybody's doing as well as they say that they are. But sometimes having honest conversations can really make you stand out as well, and just be like, oh, I'm so glad you're doing really well, but do you know what? I'm finding it tough. That it's tough out there. And I think the Northeast, where I'm based, we've got it's quite an honest northern crowd up here. But yeah, I do remember feeling like that at the beginning, just going, everyone's doing amazingly well. Why am
Yeah.
I struggling here?
How are you not getting clients when everyone is getting clients? And how are you not doing so well when everyone else seems to be doing well? And
Yeah.
I'm just sharing that because I think it's quite important that at the early parts of the journey, I think the honest crowd that you just referred to can be quite refreshing for somebody who is starting out, who is struggling, and
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily want the, oh, everyone is struggling, because that's what networking is about, but don't necessarily want to feel like an absolute waste of space because everyone is doing well and they are not. And it
Yeah.
is quite important. And I remember asking somebody a question, the specific question back then, and the response I got was, well, no one exactly wants to do business or refer to somebody who isn't doing well. So that's why no one's saying no one is doing well. And I'm kind of going, interesting.
It can be quite a confusing space. It really can. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think you know what you said there is really, really important for people to remember. And I'm still early on in my days, and you do get swept up in things. And sometimes it is good to reground yourself and just be like, okay, not everybody is doing as well as they say that they're doing. Everybody does have struggles, and it's amazing when you do find those connections that you have a real spark with, and it becomes more of a business friendship, if you like. It's amazing how much they do open up and be like, oh, it's really tough at the moment, isn't it? Well, yeah, but you were at so and so the other day saying that everything was brilliant. But we everybody does it. Everybody does it. But just remember that, yeah, it's not always roses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And at what point in your journey did you start feeling more like a business owner rather than an HR person freelancing or?
Well, that's a really good question. I'm still not quite sure I've made that full transition yet. I do remember one particular time. I was quite fortunate in that I got onto a business incubator program. You go through so many months of training and things like that, and it gets you thinking in different ways. And I do remember thinking at the end of that, I stopped thinking about what I personally wanted to do, and started thinking about what the business needed to do. And that was quite a pivotal moment for me in making that change. However, I would also say that whilst I think you have to go through that, or a lot of people have to go through that, it's important to not lose the reason why you doing it in the first place, because it's hard. It's really hard. It's very difficult to get it's easy to get lost in all the advice and all the information that's out there, and it can pull you into different directions that maybe you weren't necessarily thinking about. And it's great to try those different things, but I found it very easy to get lost in the noise. So I think probably probably last year, sort of beginning to middle of last year, I was struggling quite a bit, and I was just like, I'm just not sure which direction to turn. And I think at that point you make the decision of, okay, well, is this a business or is this me as a freelancer? And I think those two are very different things. And that's I think you have to go through quite a lot of that turmoil and kind of like mental mess sometimes, and figure the way through. And I'm still not there. I don't think I ever will be. But if I ever go to a networking event, then absolutely, I already done that and everything's fine.
Yeah, and I think I get there. I'm still not there bit because it is a learning process and it's something that you evolve. And as we all know from clients we support who may have been in business for 10 years, 20 years, 30 or more, or may have been running a 500,000, 1.5 million, 10 million, and to up to tens of millions to sometimes billions or whatever that we support, that no one ever, I don't think I'm yet to come across anyone who goes, I'm there.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever met anybody who has ever got there, but we do and then the realization, the recognition that this is a learning process. I've got a lot to learn. I can learn through it. I can grow through it. And I can learn from other people's experiences as well as my own. It
Yeah.
is key. And it's also key, I think, to recognize that you own a business, you're working on the business, and you are working as well as within the business as well, because you need to
Yeah.
work on the business to get clients, to grow the business development, marketing, admin, and whatever comes with that space, as well as being able to deliver what it is that you've promised your clients that you are there to support them with. It is key
Yeah.
to running a business as opposed to just going in as a freelancer, delivering, and then walking away from it at the end of it.
Yeah, and I think it's really key what you said there as well. There's a difference between working in the business and working on the business. And it's really easy to get pulled into the working in the business bit and forgetting about working on the business. And I remember right at the beginning, I was kind of advised always keep some time to one side to work on the business. So a day a week or an afternoon a week or whatever, but make sure you have some time to work on the business. And it might not necessarily be business development or marketing or something. It might also be looking at, okay, well, what's 6 months down the road looking like? Where do I want to be? What are my goals? What am I working towards? And just having that time where you can kind of like just step back a little bit and just look at things and where you're going. I think that's really, really important. And it's certainly been something that I've tried to do. It's sometimes harder than others and easier than others, but I think that's made a big difference in terms of my journey as well, because it's so easy to get bogged down in all the minutiae and the detail that sometimes, yeah, that step back can really help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in terms of pricing, which is very important, and I think makes or breaks you sometimes in your consultancy journey, how did you charge at the start of your journey versus now, and what changed your mindset?
I must admit, I think it's, from what I've heard, a fairly typical journey of completely undervaluing and undercharging. Desperation kind of thing of please hire me, to now looking at data. I'm a big data fan, so I always say you can't manage what you can't measure, and the HRI fee report is absolute gold dust for this. But looking at what is your target audience, because it's all very well going, okay, well, I'm not going to undervalue myself and I'm going to charge X, but if your target clients can't afford that, then that's going to be a problem. So you've got to do your research. I would say now I'm more likely to, I'd still probably undercharge if I'm being honest, but I certainly don't undercharge to the point where I was when I was first starting. I would much rather charge slightly more, have less clients, but better quality work, than be running around trying to service lots and lots and lots of clients, but they don't pay very much. And then my time and effort is diluted. So, yeah, I think that's something that you kind of learn. But I would also say that nearly 3 years in, well, just over 2 years in, pricing is still my main gremlin and probably will be for some time, because no one likes talking about money. And it, do you know what? For HR people who constantly tell everyone else that they should be really singing their own praises and everything else, we're horrendous at it. So yeah, I always find that very, very difficult, but I am getting better at it. And thank you for doing that report.
That's all right. You're very welcome, and I'm pleased whenever I hear feedback on the fee survey reports. It's really sort of makes my day in terms of it's serving the purpose, the exact reason why we created it. I was going to say your statement you just made, it can probably be a whole podcast, webinar, training, etc. on its own for HR people.
Absolutely.
Because absolutely HR people don't like talking about money. I know everyone said people don't like talking about money in Britain, but HR people specifically, when it comes to themselves, don't like talking about money in any shape or form. And one of the key reasons why we created the fee survey is that it was a really dark art in terms of how much are others charging. If you look at the professions and you go online, you can get a good idea of the average either hourly rate or whatever that certain professions charge. When it comes to HR, it's still impossible to really work out what people charge for doing what work, when, etc. And so when you set out, and I remember if you put in 1 or 2 proposals and you get a response of, oh, I'm sorry, but you were not picked and we went with someone else, one of the first reasons your mind will go to would be, oh, did I overprice for this? And that then starts affecting and impacting your confidence on when you put in your next proposal, that really weighs on your mind. And then you go an inch lower and then it's a race to the bottom. But the reality is for most HR consultants, especially within the HRI community, you have a minimum of an average of 15 years plus experience that people have under their belt, in addition to great certifications and qualifications, etc., that people have had over the years. And all that, knowing the value that brings to the organization, is important and play a key role in pricing. But it's something that we really struggle with. And also the bit you said about not being able to sing our own praises, again, is always, it doesn't help, because we end up underselling ourselves. Not that we probably not confident or don't know value, but I think HR gets beaten down quite a lot by a lot of professions and in the workplace and in industry and everything. So that then goes to, ooh, are they going to buy into this? So there is a huge amount of work to be done on that. And that is not something that early consultants suffer from, but I would say probably goes on for much, much longer into the consultancy journey. So it's definitely a gremlin that we all need to do our best to overcome.
Yeah. And I think if you can get it clear in your mind how to handle the pricing objection when someone says, oh, you're too expensive, regardless of what you're charging, I think if you can get used to handling that objection and the reasons why you charge what you do, that will help you with your confidence. Because I remember there was a particular moment where I suddenly realized, hang on, I'm not charging for just my time here. I'm charging for my experience, my qualifications, my time, the preparation work, the ability to be able to know where to ask the right questions if I need to ask questions. So there's all of that. And I think it's really important to be able to get that right in your mind, because otherwise you're not going to come across with the confidence, because you're going to fall at the first hurdle when someone goes, well, that's too expensive. So you end up going, oh, okay, well, I can discount.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, the moment you start going, oh, yeah, actually, I'm happy to discount, desperation then sets in, isn't it? And you come across as, actually, do you want this work? Do you know what you're doing? Or do you just want the work so you charge for anything? And
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what do new HR MDs overcomplicate that you didn't in your journey?
My services. I started to, because I felt like I had to have everything absolutely perfect. And to be fair, I don't think this is something just that new people do. This is something that you can, and I did it myself with a website, rebuilding my website. You get so stuck into the details sometimes that you forget that if you don't understand what you're trying to do, then somebody looking in at your services is not going to understand what you're trying to do. So keep it simple. Cool. But yeah, keep it simple, especially when it comes to your messaging, your services, and your pricing. If you start getting too complicated with those, people will tune out before they've even looked at it properly. And that's kind of something that I think I learned well, I know I did learn quite quickly because I did start to overcomplicate. And yeah, like I say, I did get to a point where I was like, I can't even explain this. So how can I expect someone to understand it?
Be able to, yeah. Okay, excellent. And what would you do in your first 90 days if you had to start over again tomorrow?
I would get some proper business cards, because being able to scan LinkedIn is great until there's no signal, which happens a lot. So get some proper business cards, get out networking, and don't worry about all the peripheral stuff, because you can get buried in that and you procrastinate everything else by doing that. For example, you can spend a week going out and looking at mugs with your logo on and everything else, which is great. But if you've got no clients, then nobody wants a mug. All those visual types of things I love, and I get creative with them. But that's 40 hours you could be spent actually developing your client base and things like that. So yeah, I would spend less time on the peripheral stuff and just get stuck in.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, Sophie. And what's the opinion you have about HR consultancy that will make some people feel uncomfortable?
That the way forward for all HR is going to be fractional. I can see it happening. I can see that consultants, in terms of the type where they do unlimited advice and calls and all the rest of it, will definitely have its place. But I think the in-house stuff is going to move to outsourced fractional. And with the advent of AI, I think there's going to be some really tricky conversations to be had, and some new skill sets that all HR professionals are going to have in order to be successful in the profession. And that includes things like business development.
Yeah. Great. Very interesting perspective and take on it. Thank you. So what's the one decision you made that changed everything for your business?
Stop listening to the noise. You get told that you should be doing things in certain ways. People have lots of opinions, and a lot of people are not afraid to share those opinions, which is great. But ultimately, you're the one in the business. You're the one doing the work, and you've got to be true to yourself. I tried specialising and niching in a particular area because I was told that that's what I should be doing. And I knew it didn't sit well. It didn't sit right with me. And I think that came across. And I think that whilst people have your best interests at heart, you've got to have a louder voice internally sometimes, and you've got to listen to that. And it's really difficult to do, especially when you're fairly new and you're trying to figure stuff out yourself. And there's all these very experienced people telling you, well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And yeah, so for me, it's cut out that noise and make sure that you are clear on what you're wanting to do and which bits of advice to take. Don't feel like you have to fall into the trap of everything.
That's great. Excellent. Thank you very much, Sophie. One more thing before we round up this very interesting and engaging discussion. For anyone listening, thinking about starting out, what advice would you give them?
Do it. Just do it. It's hard. It's tough. It's probably harder than you think it's going to be, but it's worth every moment of it. And if things don't turn out the way you thought that they would, that isn't failing, that's trying. And that's a very different thing. And like I said earlier, if something goes wrong, it's not a failure, and as long as you learn something. So just go for it. You'll learn along the way. There will never be a right time to do it.
Excellent. And the award moment. So thinking back to October in the room, tell me about the moment you found out that you won.
I remember it really well. So I remember you starting to talk about, obviously the award came up and you were talking about the winning submission, and I thought, that sounds like it could be mine, but I knew it also could sound, oh, I think you were talking about the runner-up, and what you were saying about them was very similar to some of the stuff that I'd put in. And I was so happy to be runner-up. I was so happy. And then when you said that it was the other person that was the runner-up, so obviously I'd won, I genuinely was floored, and it's not often that I'm speechless. But yeah, there was so many wonderful people in that room, and to this day I've won a few awards, and that one means so much to me because it's from people who get it. It's your peers, it's people who understand what HR is and how difficult it can be and everything, and it just meant so much. So yeah, I was genuinely floored.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Has it changed anything for your business yet?
It has. Being able to have that kind of recognition where you are seen by people in your industry as someone who's an emerging talent, it speaks a lot, and people look for that kind of credibility, and people have commented on it, and I do shout about it because, like I say, I'm really proud of it. People have kind of come to me and said, oh, can you do this piece of work? I see you've won that. And it does help. It definitely does help. Yeah, so it's definitely made a difference.
Excellent. Great. Thank you very much, Sophie. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for listening. Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
On winning the Emerging Talent Award. Can't wait to see what's next and what lies ahead for you. Who knows, we might be talking to you next year about the high growth or innovation. Who knows? But yeah, absolutely enjoyed our conversation, and looking forward to seeing what's next for you and Be Sure HR.
Thank you ever so much. And again, thank you for the award. It really has meant the world. So yeah, it's a great organisation you have, Mary. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of HR Voices. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover or would like to be a guest, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media or email us at hrvoices@hrindependence.co.uk. Tune in next time.